Hey guys, welcome to the summer session of Intro to Anatomy and Physiology, Biology 2404. My name's Matthew Belzer, and I'm going to be your instructor this semester. You can call me Matt, and that's all I'm really going to talk about myself because nobody cares. What we care about is what's going to be on our orientation quiz and what's the important information for the class. So, if you log into Blackboard, which is our learning management system, this is the course homepage. Over here we have tabs, and then we have what are called content folders, which are embedded within tabs. Where you're always going to be routed when you log into Blackboard is the announcements page. The announcements page is where I'm going to communicate with you guys about anything in the class. So when I make an announcement, an email is automatically sent to your ACC email. So if you're like, when are you going to grade the test? Check the announcements, because I will give the announcements and I'll tell you what the grade totals are and the point totals and where grade trajectories are. If you're curious about a change in the schedule, check the announcements. And in fact, any information in the class, check the announcements. Those announcements will also be emailed to you at your ACC email address, so make sure to pay attention to that. Tools is an important tab. The most important sub-tabs under Tools by a long shot are the My Grades tab, because it'll allow you to keep track of your point progress in the class, and the Blackboard Collaborate. So you're going to see when we go over the schedule that each week on Thursday I'm going to have a 4-hour Blackboard Collaborate extra credit study session. I highly recommend logging into these because when you get to know me, you're going to realize my exams are hard. So when you log into this, when you go to Blackboard Collaborate, you have the course room, and that's unlocked, meaning that you can have a Zoom or a Skype-like interface with anybody in the class just by going to the course room. So if you form a study group in the class, you can actually just go to the course room. It's unlocked all the time, and you can utilize Blackboard Collaborate as a mechanism of communicating, right, with like video chat. It's kind of like Zoom. Now, for study sessions, I'm going to, as an instructor, hit Create Session. And for example, the first study session is on June 4th. So I'm going to say 6-4 study session. If you click on that, you'll log in, you'll be routed. And I expect participation. Show me your face. Open up your microphone only when you're talking, but talk to me. You don't have to type everything. Physically speak with me. And I'm going to, even though to get the extra credit, you have to log in and actually attend the study session, the entirety of the study session, and participate, I am going to record those study sessions for people who can't attend, because remember, they're extra credit, so they're not required, but they're a little bit extra. So those are the two most important tools. Now, if you go to Syllabus and Schedule, you can click on the Syllabus link and you can go Syllabus for Online Teaching. There's my name, there's my email address. I get back to emails very quickly, especially given that this is an online class. If you send me an email, make sure you send it from the ACC email account. I won't return emails from any other account. Send it from your ACC email. I once got an email from cruelesttemptress@yahoo.com. I still don't know who that is. I'm curious, I want to know, but I never returned the email and it just said missing class. If you send me an email, include your name, the course information, and exactly what you want, because otherwise I have no idea who you are, so I'm just going to go, sure, bud, and leave it be. Orientation, that's what we're doing right now. So we're going through orientation as we speak, and there's going to be an orientation quiz. The orientation quiz is, one, how I'm going to verify that you're supposed to be in the class, and two, it's how I'm going to verify your attendance. So that orientation quiz is important because if you don't do it, I'm going to automatically withdraw you if it's not done by the first week, and you're going to find the first week has a ton of stuff to do. Now, the course description you can read through, but I want to make sure you read these bullet points specifically. Are you disciplined enough to establish a schedule and stick to it? And can you set aside approximately 18 hours a week to work on this class? Because if you were in a traditional classroom setting, this class is Monday through Thursday for 4 hours a day, essentially, right? So 16 hours a week, bare minimum, just class time. Summer classes move quickly. Online classes doubly so. So make sure that you can dedicate the time necessary. And if you're willing to work, I'm willing to work, man. I'm a really nice guy. I'll help you out. Now, skills and prerequisites, I don't check those or any of the test scores unless you start falling behind. The common course objectives for every piece of content I'm required or contractually obligated to teach can be found at this hyperlink. You'll notice a ton of hyperlinks in the different things that I use. We have our student learning outcomes, our course rationale, yada yada. Required materials. Do I require a textbook? No. You can go to openstacks.com. So if you click on this link and there's another link where it says links to textbook and important links, you'll see that OpenStax is an online textbook with a table of contents. You can download the app, you can download the PDF, and you can access the textbook from anywhere. It is a zero-cost textbook, so you don't have to pay for that at all. Now, we go over 16 core topics in this class, and all of that material, any of my videos or anything like that is my intellectual property, and you don't have my permission to share it unless I give you my permission. I also, in addition to the textbook, give you a set of learning modules called Lectora modules, and a lot of times these Lectora modules have a little extra credit quiz associated with them just to reward you for keeping on top of material. So when we break down the course methodology, what do you need? You need access to the internet and Blackboard. You have 16 core course topics that are going to be presented in a series of videos. Each video will have a series of quizzes associated with it that you can access. Nothing, Siri, get out of here. What are you doing? Just going to turn on me? So you're going to have a series of quizzes over those core content in those videos, those lecture and lab videos you're going to go over. There's going to be a paper due this semester, and the rough draft and the final draft are worth more than an exam. So I would suggest putting some work into it, and during our study sessions, you're going to see that we're going to dedicate a lot of time to that because I want to make sure that I have students walking out of here with some reading comprehension, writing skills, and research skills. Each unit will end with a unit exam. And I recommend getting a binder that's like 1.5 to 2 inch, maybe 3 inch, 3-ring binder, 16 tabs, and labeling the tabs according to each of the core content areas we go over because you can organize your lectures and your labs that way. You don't have to do that because I can't check to see if you are, but trust me when I say, man, that will be a valuable tool for studying because it'll allow you to organize all of the material that we have in the class. Now, you're going to be required to download a Respondus Lockdown browser. Respondus Lockdown browsers are a browser just like Firefox or Internet Explorer or Google Chrome. Those are browsers. They allow you to access online databases. The Respondus Lockdown browser can be accessed at either one of these links. It's available for both Mac and PCs. And you have to download and use that browser when you access unit exams, not quizzes, but unit exams. So if I go down here to my Launchpad, for example, do you see over here where it says Respondus Lockdown browser? If you email me and say, I can't access the exam, it requires a password, I know for a fact you're not using the Respondus Lockdown browser because once you're on the Respondus Lockdown browser, you are not going to need a password. You're also not going to be able to navigate to any other websites. And one of the things the Respondus Lockdown browser does is when you access my exam, I say Respondus Lockdown browser with Respondus monitor, meaning that during exams, you're going to have to open up your camera, you're going to have to follow a set of instructions. Unit exams, not quizzes. You're going to have to follow a set of instructions, and we are going to proctor you while you take the exam. So you're going to be filmed while you're taking the exam. And if you're doing things like this, or like this, or like this, it's going to cue you and it's going to red flag you on my end, and I'm going to go back and evaluate that video. So it's a mechanism to prevent cheating. I would proctor this if it was in person, but the testing centers and everything are closed. If you say, hey, I'm not willing to open up my video, cool, right? Then you won't be able to access the exams. That's fine by me. I mean, you can make the decision about what you want to do. So make sure to go on so you understand what Respondus Lockdown is, because I'm going to use that for every one of the exams. Now, instructional methodology, lecture videos, lab videos, Lectora modules, and readings. Read through those and see what those are. When you think about the grading criteria for this class, there's going to be 6 exams. These exams are going to be worth 5 exams. They're going to be unit exams worth 120 points a pop. So 5 exams worth 120 points each. They're going to cover both lecture and lab material, and they're going to consist of 2 types of questions. You're going to have check-a-box questions, like multiple choice questions. Then you're going to have essay questions. You're going to usually have 50 multiple choice questions and 5 to 7 essay questions. And trust me when I say, I grill you on your essay questions. I ask you questions that can't be Googled, that you really have to know the content in order to answer effectively, and that's what we do when we have study sessions. So there's going to be a check the box portion of exams, which is just like multiple choice essentially. Those mean nothing to me. Whether somebody can take a multiple choice exam means zilch to me. Essay questions, on the other hand, are going to be a little bit more heavily weighted because that's when I get the opportunity to see you think. If you want some help prepping for those, I highly recommend attending the study sessions. So you can read through the exam format and the exam deadlines. We're going to have lab exercises and quizzes. There's going to be 10 lab quizzes throughout the course of the semester associated with the lab exercises for that week that you can access on Blackboard, 15 lecture quizzes, a formal essay that's going to be turned in 2 parts. You're going to be turning in a outline for 50 points and then your final essay for 100 points. I am going to evaluate the crap out of your essays. So we're not going to talk about those essays until we get a little bit later in the semester, so you guys have a chance to calibrate yourself and figure out what's going on. Here we have a tool that you can use to calculate your own grades. I have my attendance policy. If I don't see you, I'm going to drop you. Withdrawals and reinstatements, I very rarely reinstate a student. You can read through all the different policies. Now, if you are an SAS student, right, please email me. We can discuss that discreetly. I will make sure that your accommodations are met. So that's the syllabus, and you can go through and you can read through the syllabus. The other document that I want you to take a close look at is the course schedule. So if you go to the course schedule, this is going to be your Bible for getting through this class. This has everything. If you ask me, well, when is that due? I'll just look at the course schedule and go, oh, then. So you look at this first week, and even though we're not coming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm just giving you an idea of what you should be doing those days in order to keep on top of the material. So you notice how it says Chapter 1 lecture block, Introduction to Anatomy and Physiology, Lecture Quiz 1. Lab 1, Metric System Dimensional Analysis and Graphing, Lab Quiz 1. Lecture Quiz 2, Lab Quiz 2. This is 1 week. You have 5 quizzes due the first week, and then these are your readings. The OpenStax, that's Chapter 1. The modules, right? I give you the modules that cover that content area, and we're going to look at those in just a little bit. Most important thing to pay attention to here are the weekly wrap-ups. So if you look, each week has a weekly wrap-up and it says what's due that Sunday. I essentially make everything due on Sunday the week after that content is covered. So this first week you have 5 quizzes due. This first week is worth 50 points. Get on the ball quickly. This is a condensed course intended for allied health professionals. If you begin falling behind, that's going to be really problematic. I would rather you drop earlier than later because I can get people who are on my wait list in. If you want to be in this class, I'd love to have you, man. I'm a really nice guy and I'll work hard, but make sure you stay on top of material or you're going to fall horribly behind. Now, each Thursday, I'm going to do a 4-hour study session, and I give you kind of an idea of what we're going to be talking about in each one of those study sessions. Every study session is going to be worth extra credit. So every Thursday, we have a 4-hour study session worth extra credit. I'm going to answer those questions, and we would do it at the time the class would traditionally be held. So for my day class, 1 to 3:40 p.m., for my night class, 6 to 8:40 p.m., I'm just going to do it during the times that it would be traditionally held in the classroom setting before we shifted to an online format. But every Thursday, we're going to do a group study session through Blackboard Collaborate. So make sure to have that in the back of your mind. So you see orientation quiz, office hours, important links, notably to the book. And then you have the Unit 1 material. So you look at the schedule and you go, okay, so I have chapter 1 lecture block. I should have that done by Monday, June 1st, and then the lab would have been lab 1 over the metric system. Each one of these has a lecture quiz and a lab quiz associated with it. So what does that mean? So I go to Unit 1 lecture material. Once I navigate to the Unit 1 material, I open up one unit at a time. And you go to the chapter 1 lecture block. Now, in the chapter 1 lecture block, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 short videos over the material we're going over that day. So video 1, Introduction to Anatomy and Physiology. You have the video. So you press play on the video, or you can navigate to YouTube. You're going to see me talking, and I'm going to be giving a traditional lecture. You then have what's called the lecture handout. Now, these lecture handouts have follow along 1, follow along 2, follow along 3. And they are the most important tool you can have to identify what's important throughout the lectures. So before at the beginning of every lecture, I'm going to say either print your lecture handout out or have it up and available so you can type your notes and answer these questions. Take breaks at each follow along and go, okay, let me answer these. Do I get what he's talking about? Do I get what he's saying? And these lecture handouts form the basis of your studying, right? What you should be studying, what you should be taking out of this content. And you can write notes directly on them, and they're going to be heavily emphasized during exams. So when I say you should have a 3-ring binder with 16 tabs, I'm saying, okay, so this would go under introduction. Now you can organize your material so you have one consolidated area for studying. Now, when you get chapter quizzes, so we go to the chapter 1 lecture block, there are many different sections. The chapter 1 quiz is 20 questions long, and it pulls from 5 questions from each one of those videos because it's over an entire block. So you'll click on that link that says quiz, and you'll go to that quiz material, and you're given these questions one at a time in randomized order in order to avoid cheating. So you go to, there we go. So you have Unit 1 lecture material. Now, some of the quizzes, like if you go to the Chapter 2 lecture block over general chemistry, that's another one where it's giving you a quiz over both of these. But not all of them are going to be like that. So, for example, if I go back to the Unit 1 material and I go to Unit 1 lecture material and I go to Chapter 3 lecture block the cell and I go to gene expression, I have a quiz just over gene expression. So you can see these, right, laid out. You have lecture quiz, lab quiz, and you can see these quizzes laid out, and they're always going to be laid out in an easy to see format. So, for example, in the first unit, what's due this Sunday, if you go to Unit 1 material and you go to Chapter 2 lecture block biochemistry, not every lecture doesn't have an associated quiz, right? Not every lecture has an associated quiz, but every lecture is going to be heavily emphasized on the exam. So you can go to that quiz over biochemistry. It's right under that. I would suggest watching the video and filling in the handout and kind of studying before you take the quiz. Otherwise, it's going to clobber you. And for quizzes, you don't need the Respondus lockdown browser. Quizzes are prep tools, right? So you can take all the time in the world you want on a quiz. It's not timed. It's not anything, like that. But I would suggest studying and try to take the quiz like you would an exam. Like go over, fill out the handout, watch the video, study the material, and then see whether you can take that lecture quiz like you would an exam. If you're missing every single question or you don't know any of the questions, I promise you when it comes exam time, you are going to feel that. And again, it's an online class, right? I don't ever see you. I don't really know you. So I'm not going to make a lot of exceptions. I'm just going to say, hey, we got to get going with this material. So lab quizzes are kind of the same. Like if you go to Unit 1 lab material, you're going to have some follow-along labs. You're going to have just some video labs. So like the pH lab, for example, we actually have a lab, and you're going to have to print out that lab and follow along and do the data collection and fill out a formal lab report, and that's what the information for that pH lab quiz is going to be over. So it's easy to find them now that all the material is up. Now, unit exams, you're not going to see anything under this because there are no unit exams, and you have study guides. The study guide for Lecture Exam 1 and Lab Practical 1 is up and ready to go, and it's ready to Zoom. So familiarize yourself with the website. And one other thing I want to point out, I'm going to include this in my email. There's actually a class website that's independent from Blackboard. This is what it looks like if you were to access it from like a PC, for example. So you can go to like syllabus schedule, you can go to your different lecture blocks, your lab content blocks, and what I would do is I would pin this to your phone. So within that introductory email, I'm going to give you instructions for how you would pin a website to your phone so you can open it just like an app. And this has all the course material with the exception of the quizzes and the exams, and you can just access them much easier. Like on my phone, I have this class website pinned. So it's really easy to do that, especially if you just follow the instructions. So you'll see Biology 2404. If I click on that, it takes me right to the content. I don't have to like log into Blackboard and navigate through it. It's just an easier thing to use. So I highly recommend pinning that to your phone because you can do studying from anywhere without having to access the Blackboard website. It's also a little bit friendlier for things like iPhones. So just so you all know, there is that class website, and I'm going to include this link in the first email that I send out to you. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye. One last thing I kind of want to point out to you is I said, hey, you have the option. You can download the textbook or you can access the OpenStax textbook online and you can read any of the material we're going over. This is a fantastic textbook and it's free. Another thing I've provided for you are what are called Lectora modules. So if you go to Unit 1 material, and Unit 1, by the way, is the only unit in which I'm going to be throwing in extra credit. If you go to like Chapter 2 lecture block, you'll see supplementary modules for completion, highly recommended prior to class, could be some extra credit buried in there. So if you go to these, and you go to, let's say, 2.1, Elements and Atoms, you have a module that you can actually open, which is kind of a distilled or paraphrased version of the textbook that's an interactive module that's a bit easier on you than reading the entirety of the text. So here we have Module 2.1, Elements and Atoms. So you go through these modules and they kind of walk you through and you click on things and it's a little bit interactive. And while you're doing these modules, you have these notes that allow you to follow along with the modules, and each one of these modules is going to be associated in Unit 1 with an extra credit quiz. So if you see supplement only in Unit 1, so get it while it's hot. Now the modules are going to be due on the dates, the Sunday at midnight of the week we go over that material. So if you see that that particular module material was covered that week, it's going to be due Sunday, that midnight. I just had to throw that in at the very end there. So keep those modules in mind because they're really useful and students get a lot out of them. So I would recommend doing them, especially if you're having trouble understanding some of the content.